Hello everyone, this is Ranjay here. A very good evening to all of you. Right, so basically what we will go through is an initial understanding of what CRM is, and we will introduce the term CRM, understand what it is, how is it that it is important in the marketplace nowadays. Next, as a part of CRM, we will understand one key term which is like a buzzword in the industry right now, cloud computing. That's a term which is used day in and day out across the industry, across various sectors, people speaking across forums and so on. Within cloud computing, we will learn two small concepts of what we call as SaaS and PaaS. Next, when we have spoken about cloud computing and when I have given you a basics on CRM, we will talk about Salesforce.com. Now, Salesforce.com is the CRM tool which we will primarily talk about in today's session. As part of Salesforce.com, I will introduce you to three concepts, or I would say three aspects of Salesforce.com, which are the Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and the Service Cloud. Delving a little deeper into what Salesforce.com provides, I will introduce you to a high-level overview about Salesforce.com objects, the way they are related to each other through relationships, and finally something which is of paramount importance when we talk of Salesforce.com, security features. Why is it of paramount importance? Let's see in the next few slides. I hope I'm loud and clear to you guys. Whenever you feel that the session is not very clear to you, you have some questions, or you may be not getting the voice clear, please raise your hands or please put up a question that you are not listening, being able to listen properly. Okay, what is CRM? Why is it that people are talking about CRM everywhere? So if I have to just say in three straight words what CRM means, it means customer relationship management. Three easy terms, right? To me, when I initially got introduced to this, I just thought, look, it's very easy, right? You meet your customers, you get to know what they are supposed to do, and you just do that. Now, when I thought about that, and the way my thinking changed after I got introduced to CRM in a bit more longer time frame, is initially what I was listening to was typically I would say it's not a proactive way of thinking about customers. Whereas when I look at CRM or customer relationship management as a whole, it's a proactive way of managing your customers. If I have to talk of a proper definition, it's basically interactions between a company or I would say an organization with its clients. Now, when I mean interactions, it means all the touch points that you can typically think of from a company and a client standpoint. So basically what you have is an organization and its various clients across different forums. So that's what CRM is. It will typically try and think about how is it that various companies and clients interact with each other. And the end result, you just want to make the bond between your company and your clients stronger and stronger as you go on. Now, why do you want to do that is the straightforward question, and I know most of you have the answer to that. Unless a company keeps building its relationship with its clients, in a few days time the company would not exist, because customer first, that's the motto. That's something which has been the focus and will always remain the focus. Customers make companies all the while. Yes, I know that there are a lot of companies which say that we develop our own customers by virtue of certain services. But yes, if you don't have your customers, whatever services you may have developed, in the long run, you would not be able to develop new and new services for your clients. And that's where CRM plays its role. So three main aspects, if I have to look at CRM and its reason for its existence or the purpose. First, retain existing clients. They are your most important base of, I would say, base of customers. Let's talk of it in a very simple, in a simple way. I am currently working with a company, or rather, I won't say working, rather, I am currently engaged with a telecom operator which provides me internet services. Now, for the last 4 years, that same company has been working with me and they have been giving satisfactory services. But just a few days back, I realized that there are other players in the market who have now better offerings at lower price rates. Now, where does that put me? Suddenly, do I feel cheated? Do I feel that the company with whom I was interacting for the last 4 years, they didn't come proactively to me and give me something which was value added? Yes, and that's the reason why I changed my telecom operator, which was giving me the internet services. So what happened? A customer who, like me, who was there for the last 4 years, I just changed just like that. And because of the fact that the company wasn't proactive in offering something which was much more focused for the particular moment. And that's what is very important when I talk of retaining existing clients. Second, energizing dormant accounts of clients. Now, when we talk of dormant accounts of clients, there are a lot of clients who are actually sitting on that borderline, or what we call as the fence sitters. They can swing either ways. They can swing on your side. They can swing easily as well on your competition side. You don't want to typically lose those customers. Reason being, it's difficult bringing a customer from your competitor to you. It's easier to bring a fence sitter to your side, because a fence sitter is generally not very sure about your competitor as well. So when I look at it from an organization standpoint, I see these are easy targets whom I can typically try and sell my services. And of course, when I look at the third purpose of finding new clients, I don't think that's something which I need to elaborate on further, because that's an easy thing. You are always on the lookout for new clients, value added clients, clients who bring in a different kind of experience for you. Not just because you can sell things, also because you learn from new clients. Now, the couple of examples which I have provided here as part of our overview slide is basically, whenever we talk of CRM, you would typically see how is it that a company enhances its values to its clients, right? Now, there are a lot of cosmetics brands. What they do is, when they are launching new products, instead of directly reaching the market first and flooding it with their products, they would typically target a few of their, I would say, loyal clients, loyal with quotes. Reason being, those are the kind of clients the company knows that they continuously use its products and would not change even if there's a price difference. And why would they do it with such loyal customers? They want to get the feedback from those customers first. So how is it that a company would recognize such kind of customers? That's again something that CRM helps you to do. Second, different categories of deals, or I would say different categories of sales related incentives which are provided to different kinds of customers or different types of customers by various retail chains from time to time. So you would get a couple of personalized emails that say, if you are holder of XX type of a particular membership, then you would get these uh, then you would get a certain incentive for a certain brand. That's again something which CRM helps you to do. Okay, now coming on to the part of why is it that CRM really caught on a lot of importance in the last few years or so. Now, generally what has happened, always companies have had data on their customers. Typically what sales teams, if you guys look back at the last 15, 20 years back, everyone used to maintain that customer data either in a diary or in a spreadsheet or whatsoever. The data was always there. But then what happened to that data? Was that data collated somewhere? Was that data utilized somewhere to get further insights into the customer? Basically what happened is, you would never use that data and the data would lie somewhere and not be utilized for the benefit of the customer. Secondly, any company, if you look back 15-20 years back, customer relationship management wasn't yet there in terms of their focus areas. They had a lot bigger problems to deal with. They had a lot of stockouts. They had a lot of problems with their supply chains, with their logistics. Customers, yes, at that moment their focus was, let me just try and get things to the customer and not try and think about how is it that better that experience of the customer. So these are the couple of things which were really important for CRM to come in. Now, when we looked at CRM in a way, typically there are two players, and that's something which we have been speaking on also for the last 10 minutes or so. There are customers, people like us, who are typically always looking for quick and a specific response from the organization that we are interacting with. As a customer, I am always looking at a flexible resolution to my problems. So when I call up, say, a particular telecom company asking them about a particular service, I don't want the customer care executive to tell me about 10 other plans or 10 other offers that they have. I want them to talk about the specific issue that I have, resolve that first, and then maybe I'll talk about something later. Second, a customer wants a problem, or rather a solution to their problem, but does not want the company to be very rigid. They want flexible resolutions. Different types of customers might have different needs of the same solution, and it's like one size can't fit all. So you need a flexible solution, not a rigid one. Customers have never liked bureaucracy. Obviously, no one wants to wait. Why would I wait when I have 10 people offering me the same service, or rather when I have 10 companies offering me the same service? The one who serves me quickest is something that I will always go for. And finally, I would always look at an easy information bit of a source. That's something which is always easy for me, right? Wherever I get the first and the most important information, that's something that I'll always look at. Now, when I generally look at from a different aspect, that is an organization's view, and when I have to deal from a company standpoint, I would always worry about, look, what are my key things when I deal with, say, hundreds and thousands of customers? I want higher revenues. I don't want to maintain hundreds of people just to make sure that my customers get serviced. How can I make sure that I can service my customers in a quicker way by having lesser people on board? That's one. Second, I don't want a lot of maintenance related cost and time expenses, because that's something which keeps adding to my costs, right? When I have cost, how can I pass on the benefit to my customers? I'm not even thinking of being profitable at the time being. I'm just thinking about how do I stay afloat? How do I give that value to my customer? And finally, if I have to maintain a huge amount of customers, I would never be able to think about innovations or new services which will help me in further revenue generation. That's something which is primarily important. So if you look at this slide tells you about one thing very clearly. The mindset between customers and organizations in the traditional model has always been they have always been 180 degrees apart. Customers have wanted rigidity, they have wanted flexible solutions. Organizations have always thought of, I want to keep lesser people for the same amount of work or greater amount of work. I want to develop revenues first. That's the difference. Now, bridging this difference is something which has been done by CRM by getting one, timely data regarding customers to organizations. Second, you have a system or a way of getting the data organized. Thereby, you are able to do your processing regarding whatever activities you are supposed to do with customers in a much quicker fashion. Now, that's something that you will generally want to do with CRM systems. Okay. Now coming to the four important aspects wherein CRM systems play a very important role. First, a continuous exchange of information across customers, across channels, across all touch points. Now, what I mean rather by a touch point is any mode of interaction between a customer and an organization. It might be even something like the social media. I might be asking for some feedback about a new product through Facebook. If I see a couple of customers talking very well about my product, I would obviously try and understand what is that customer segment talking about. What is that particular customer, or rather, who is that particular customer? Who does he represent? What are the kind of, so if I see that, I would generally know whom is it that I have to sell to. What kind of marketing activities do I need to get in touch with such kind of customers? Second, personalized products based on specific needs and expectations. Now, this is the crux of CRM. You can't have one size fits all. You can't have something like Henry Ford saying, I can give you a car in any color till it's black. It doesn't work now. It's like, I want a particular color, I want a particular shade, I want a particular size. Either you give me or I move on to your competitor. That's what is happening in the real market. CRM systems help you to gauge that kind of a demand. Next, a consistent user experience across touchpoints. So what happens is, now let me elaborate on this a little bit more, because I've spoken about touchpoints a couple of times now. Say you come into Facebook, you see a company providing an advertisement about a particular product which you want to check. You actually check that advertisement, you get some information, and you are happy. Now, you then see the same product being advertised in a different way on the television. Now, that's another touch point. But then the user experience is different. It kind of tells you, so let me take an example. Now, say when you check in through Facebook, you see a very swanky car. You see a car which actually talks of comfort. But when you check in your television, you see that the same car is being positioned as a real people's car, which is economically very friendly, which is straightforward, and I would say which is really economical to drive. Now that's a different kind of a user experience. You cannot target both these things generally with the same product. You would obviously have to talk about variants in these two cases. So a disjoint user experience across touchpoints. CRM typically will try and ensure that you have a consistent user experience. You will not talk of two different things across different touchpoints to the same kind of customer base. And finally, something that all systems are supposed to do, a real-time access to all information. That's something which is very important, because real-time data access, real-time information access is key to any decision making in today's world. Any questions at this moment? I know I'm going a little fast across the slides. If you guys have any questions, I'll just pause for 10-15 seconds and allow you guys to ask any questions which you might have. Okay, I see one question from Ravi Kumar, which says, is CRM related to big data? Typically, no. At this point, and my response is actually, I would say contextual, in the sense that at this moment, CRM is typically not related to big data. Reason being, right now, when you talk of generally big data is generally something which involves a lot of data, a lot of analytics. At this moment, yes, if you talk of a B2C model, a business to consumer model, there's a lot of data. You can do a lot of the churning in a separate system and then push that data to CRM in the form of final analytics results. A CRM system will typically utilize that result to arrive at some meaningful information. So you would say my customer base is divided into 5 segments. For these segments, these are the kind of products I have. So it will utilize the results of big data. Hiren, there's one request from Hiren to go back to the first couple of slides, which I'll do immediately. Let me first also talk about the question which Raghav has pointed out about the real-time access of information. So Raghav, yes, real-time access of information, what it typically means is if I have 10 different if I have information about 10 different customers, and say I am a sales executive who has gone to the market and collected information, and in the same day my sales manager wants to see that information, CRM system helps him to do that. So there's no time lag between a sales executive collecting the data and then maybe going back to a sales manager and telling him. What the sales executive does, in store directly he'll enter that information in the system and it will be accessible to his manager. I hope I've answered your question, Raghav. Okay, next question from Sanket. Does CRM help to deploy solutions in real-time environments? Yes, Sanket, it does. What happens is when you have live CRM systems, people actually work on real-time environments. People will enter the data. One moment the data is submitted, it's immediately available to other users based on whosoever can see the data. I hope that answers your question, Sanket. Next question from Devika is Salesforce completely dealing with customer relationship? It goes beyond. So Devika, the answer to this is yes, it deals with customer relationship. But when I talk of Salesforce, it even goes beyond customer relationships. I'll talk of a couple of experiences a little later where I will talk of something beyond CRM. So people have built recruiting applications based on Salesforce. How they do that, I'll tell you. Okay, I have actually a couple of requests from Emmanuel, who says that to actually let the questions be answered at the end, because I think let's actually go through some of the slides first. And Hiren, I think what will happen is if you want the first couple of slides, I'll request Edureka to post these details for you guys so that you can actually post these questions to Edureka. I'll respond to you on their behalf. Lakshmi, one request. Let me just finish off a few more slides. I can actually come to your question a little later. The answer to you actually, it's really like something which is enticing me. Answer is something that you'll get in the next few slides. Just hold on, Lakshmi. Okay guys, coming back to the presentation, and I'll be a little quick from this instance because now we will typically talk of what Salesforce.com is. Generally, CRM systems have evolved as two different sets of applications. One has been what is called as an on-premise or traditional systems. That's a Siebel application. And second one has been on-demand systems or cloud-based systems. Now, when I talk of on-premise and on-demand, what is the differentiator is on-premise would mean any company, say company X, would have to install servers, would have to install network, would have to install systems, and would have to own all of this to get their CRM systems working. That's typically how Siebel systems have developed. Cloud-based systems, on the other hand, what it means is you don't own anything. All you need is a laptop, an internet connection, and you have a CRM system working for you. Of course, you will need Salesforce.com licenses. That's the backbone of it. But as a company, all you buy is licenses. The network, the servers, The entire infrastructure, the database, is something which is managed by Salesforce, the company called Salesforce. All you need are Salesforce licenses, a computer with a good internet connection, and that's it. You have a CRM system working for you. The bottom part, what you will see is typically 1960s, 1970s, when people used to implement on-premise systems, they would actually have to invest a lot of time and money in these systems. When we talk of today, we have the cloud, and we have a lot of types of different cloud-based softwares. We have Salesforce, you have Google Apps, you have a lot of other things like Cisco-based cloud systems and so on. These are all different kinds of cloud-based applications. They are all available in the market based on different kinds of segments of customers or segments of organizations. Now coming to the second concept of cloud computing, where we'll talk of SaaS and PaaS. What is cloud computing? And the answer is something which I have already given to you guys. Cloud computing is simple. It's internet-based computing. So remember a couple of key buzzwords. Whenever someone says cloud computing, it means that you're working on the internet. It's an internet-based computing. All you need is a computer or mobile, a tablet, or anything which can connect to the internet. That's all. A lot of people, when they talk of cloud computing, it really sounds a lot of hi-fi stuff. It's really not. It's simple. Of course, if you are an employee of Salesforce, it means a lot of back-end job. But we are not employees of Salesforce. We are users from Salesforce. People who implement Salesforce.com or say other cloud computing softwares, they are users of Salesforce. They are using that system to build something. So any person talking of cloud computing and using it for betterment of their organizations and for people or customers is basically talking of an internet-based system which can help to reach out to customers, to say clients, to say people in providing some kind of a service. And when we talk of cloud computing, there are three basic principles listed out at the bottom. It's called multi-tenant. Again, I know I'm throwing a few buzzwords here which are really prevalent in the market. Multi-tenant is something like, just consider this. It's like a hostel where you have a number of small rooms where each one of us is staying in one single room. As a whole, the hostel is owned by a company. Within that hostel, each room is owned by us, who are typically like organizations who are renting out space, who are kind of renting out space in the hostel, who are managing their entire work in their rooms. So it's like in that overall infrastructure called the hostel, each of us who are companies have a small, or rather each of us referred to as tenants here, have a small space, or rather have their own space where they are working on their own aspects. No one gets to see what is happening in the next room, but everyone utilizes the services provided by the overall hostel. That's multi-tenant. You have multiple tenants working simultaneously, doing a lot of things simultaneously, but obviously you are not getting to see what the other person is doing. That's multi-tenant. How does it help? Basically, you don't invest in that overall hostel. You don't have to think of the overall hostel and what all are there. You're only worried about your room, what kind of services you need in that room, and that's it. Second, pay-per-use. Pay-per-use means you don't pay for all the services which are provided by the hostel. You don't want to opt for 2 out of the 3 services of the hostel. You just want the room. You just pay for the room and that's it. Easily, if you look at this, you know what you are paying for. So it's always predictable for you to know what are your costs going to be at the end of the year. And thirdly, when you talk of scalable solutions, cloud computing, how it helps you is, today you have one room. You want to add another room which is adjacent to you. You just add that room to you. You pay the company, you pay the hostel, and the hostel gives you the next room as well. Or the hostel gives you another room. You just act as if you have grown in size, because everything from the infrastructure, the application, the systems, the network is something which is owned by the hostel. It is the hostel's responsibility to provide everything to you in a proper fashion. You just utilize it to develop your own services. That's cloud computing for you guys. It's a simplified way of talking about cloud computing, but yes, it's a simple thing. We talk about it in a lot of different ways, but that's what cloud computing is. Now coming to the first of the concepts within cloud computing, SaaS, or software as a service. You would see that most of the things that we talk about in software as a service are very similar to what we generally say when we talk of cloud computing as well. Only thing is, you have some software which has been hosted, or which has been provided to you as from an organization on the internet. All you worry about here is having a good network connectivity, a good internet connectivity, and a good laptop, a good desktop, a good tablet with which you will connect to that particular service. So someone is hosting a software on the internet and you are accessing that software. Salesforce, by the way, is actually a software which is a SaaS kind of a software. So it is a software as a service. Remember, Salesforce is a software as a service. Important thing to note here is all softwares have upgrades, right? Windows has an upgrade. Windows just recently upgraded from I think 8.1 to Windows 10. We all have to do that manually on our systems. Here in the software as a service or cloud computing, it is done by the overall party which is managing the system. So in case of Salesforce.com, Salesforce does it. So there are no worries regarding patch upgrades, upgrading it manually, worrying about whether your current system will work with the upgraded system or not, till when will the support for the old version work, and so on. These are all traditional worries for IT implementations. With Salesforce.com or with cloud computing, these worries are all gone. That's why, and I think now I will answer the question for Lakshmi. When you look at all these benefits compared to keeping things in-house, that's where Salesforce.com SaaS cloud computing scores higher than Siebel. Some scores higher than something like, say, an MS CRM or a Microsoft CRM, because you don't own anything. It's Salesforce's responsibility to make sure everything is available on time, in proper shape. All you are paying for is their set of services. It's like calling an Ola cab in India. All you do is you call up the phone and ask for a time and a particular type of car. If the cab doesn't arrive, it's not your responsibility to go find it. You either order it to some other competition or something else. You are not even worried if the cab owner has a problem or not. That's the simplicity of software as a service or Salesforce.com. Coming to the new, or rather the next concept of platform as a service or PaaS. Platform as a service is something like, I don't want a software to be available to me. I just want a blank server to be available. I will build something for my company. It's like I am a hardcore developer, and as a developer I want to build something for my company, but I need a server space, and I want to build it in such a way that it will be available to my customers, or say to my fellow colleagues as well. When you need that, you need a company to provide you an internet based platform or an internet based server, an internet based database, That's platform as a service. So you get a blank platform and you get to develop everything on it. Again, a small part of Salesforce.com is the third option which you see on the lower left hand side, which is Force.com. It is like a blank Salesforce.com application. It doesn't have a lot of features which Salesforce.com provides, but it is intended for those kind of organizations which wants to build something from scratch for themselves. It is like what we call a blank box for them. This is a term which is prevalent again in the market. A box. It is like an open box. People can build applications on top of that box. That's PaaS for you, platform as a service. Let me now go to the next part, which is around Salesforce.com and so on. What you will see here, of course, talks about a lot of features on Salesforce in terms of sales, and I'm talking from the lower left hand most side: sales, marketing, services, partnership, content, ideas, Google Apps, App Exchange. Without going into details of all of it, let me talk of three straight, I would say, concepts or three straight aspects of Salesforce.com and the way Salesforce.com is generally used in the market. One, it will help companies to manage its sales, which is what the lowermost corner is all about. That's typically almost bread and butter for Salesforce.com. Second, it will help companies manage their marketing related aspects. What is meant by marketing? I'll show you in the next couple of slides. Third, it will help companies to talk, or rather to service those customers whom you have already engaged with or whom you have already working with. So if you look at the life cycle of a customer organization interaction, it is basically initially there is a bit of marketing which is done in order to entice the customer or to inform the customer about new services, new offerings, or so on. Next, after the marketing has been successful, you generally sell something to the customer, that's sales. And finally, after you have sold something, the after sales or the services part come in. So the entire left hand side is what almost constitutes 70 to 80% of what Salesforce.com is used for. The remaining what you see on the right are something which are generally used to enhance these three aspects. So partnerships is typically around how do you interact more and more with your business partners. I may not be selling everything directly to a customer. I may be selling through a distributor. How do I interact with the distributor is through partnerships. Through content, what is basically done is I don't want my entire team to be involved in trying to solve customers' problems. I want certain materials to be readily available to my customers so that they can check and resolve their problems. Having all of that material available, that knowledge management piece available, is what content is all about. Ideas, it's about something new, trying to get your internal people in your company to brainstorm and maybe talk of a new service, talk of finding a new way of selling to your customer. That's ideas, growing a new idea. Google Apps, of course, when we talk of Google Apps, this is actually a big bit of a collaboration between Salesforce as an organization and Google as an organization. What they have done is, if you have actually paid for Google Apps, you can actually make sure that some of your advertisements on various websites, various forums get highlighted when people do Google searches. Of course, this is a specialization within Salesforce. I wouldn't delve into it at this moment. During the sessions that we have, there is again, we will introduce this topic and I'll talk about this towards the later part of the program. App Exchange is again something where you have a lot of applications which have been built on Salesforce.com. So you have lakhs and lakhs of developers who are trying to make something new out of Salesforce. who are trying to make something specific to say an industry. So as I said, a Salesforce is looking at CRM. It's not looking at recruiting or HR related functions. App Exchange is like a marketplace where a developer may have developed a recruiting application and has kept it there for use by various customers. So you can have trial versions there, you can have actually paid versions there. So a company who wants to use your application, as a developer, if you have put something, a company will come to you, they will contact you, they will buy your app, they'll give you license fees, and then use your applications. So an app exchange is like a marketplace for that information. This is something which I've already spoken about, so it's like I'll browse through this very quickly. How does Salesforce.com help? One, you don't need any database. It's not your worry, it's Salesforce's worry. Second, web services API. This is a technical term. Generally what it means is, and let's not get into this in too detail, generally what it means is it's easier to integrate Salesforce with other applications like SAP, Oracle, different kinds of other systems, maybe say like you can even do it with Microsoft Outlook. So uh, it's easier to integrate with other systems. Third, workflow engine. Salesforce has a way of guiding you through one function to another. There is a definite workflow, a way of working within Salesforce. It will help you to guide and move you through that application. That's workflow. Fourth, forms and layout editor. In my entire experience in the last 9.5 years, I have never seen an application that's as easy to use as Salesforce. It's like elementary. It's real elementary. It's easy to configure, and the pages look so simple and look so nice. And that's one of the key USPs of Salesforce. Anyone who is even new to this software adjusts to it very quickly. Next, access control and audits. This is actually something which is related to security, which we'll talk about a little later. End user administration, what it means is you can actually govern who does what, which of your end users do what. So I might have a sales team doing XYZ activities, whereas my marketing team only does ABC activities. You don't want everyone to do everything. Multi-device means Salesforce will actually allow you to log in through different devices. You can log in through a tablet, you can log in through your cell phone, you can log in through your desktop. All you need is an internet connection. And finally, reporting and analytics. No system in today's world is actually complete without an analytics. It's reports, reports, reports. That's what management always wants to look at. Management never has the time to go through each and every data. That's how Salesforce helps. Now let's go to these three aspects which I've spoken about, and I'll quickly take you through these three things again: Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and the Service Cloud. Sales Cloud, as I said, it's about helping to sell things to your customers, building that relationship with your customers through your products. There are a lot of things within Salesforce which helps you to do it. Typically, what we call within Salesforce is we call customers as accounts, people within your customers as contacts. There is something called opportunities. I am not going deep into these because this is right now a webinar. Please join us in the sessions and you will see dedicated time for each of these aspects within Sales Cloud. And I can promise you, if you learn Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and the Service Cloud, you are almost 70% a Salesforce consultant. You can actually go to a customer and explain what Salesforce is. Some of the concepts within Sales Cloud, I am not going through each one of these. Marketing Cloud, it's about selling, I would say, appropriate services to appropriate customers. You are basically trying to understand what your customers want and only sell, or I would say, which is what is called as channelized selling. So you would typically try and see which are the type of activities that you can plan for to reach out to your kind of customer base. What are the type of, typically Salesforce would call them as campaigns, marketing campaigns. They would run different kind of you can run different kind of marketing campaigns. Salesforce would actually tell you which of these campaigns is actually the most helpful. Again, a few examples on what marketing cloud or marketing related concepts of Salesforce.com. All of these will be really, I would say, we would have a lot of discussions on when we have the sessions, and I hope the audience who has connected to this webinar, they actually come for these sessions, because right now I am not even skimming the surface. I'm just touching and bouncing off it. I just want you guys right now to just listen to me, get a feel of what Salesforce is, get interested. If you feel interested, come back, be a part of those sessions, and learn a lot more about Salesforce.com. Service Cloud, again, as I said, it's post-sales service. So responding to all your customer queries, all your customer complaints, all their worries in terms of they can't find a solution to their problem or so on, you would do it through a Sales Cloud. Again, I'm not getting into the details here, but then we have detailed sessions on these as well. Next comes the aspect of Salesforce.com business objects. So generally what happens is with Salesforce.com, you would have to deliver a lot of things around, have a lot of things around how is it that I'll develop my application. And typically that is something which we keep hearing on a day-to-day basis. My company XYZ, it does its marketing in a different way. Some other client would come in, look, my company ABC, it doesn't follow the normal methodology. It will do something in a very different way. Salesforce Business Objects is the way of making sure that I can customize an application based on how the company operates. There are some basic doctrines or principles which a company will always maintain. Beyond that, the kind of customization that is required, Salesforce will help you to achieve that customization. How you do that is through business objects. You see a lot of business objects highlighted through the diagram. Each of these is again delved into in a very deep manner throughout our sessions. I am sure right now is not the good time to talk about all of these. These are easy concepts, but something that day in and day out as consultants, you and I have to think through as to how is it that I can do it better and better for my clients. How is it that my Salesforce.com application becomes more and more relevant to a customer? That's business objects for you. Next is SFDC or Salesforce.com relationships. Relationships basically mean how is it that objects, the ones that I just spoke of, how is it that they are related to each other? So it's not like you can have disjointed functions within your company, right? Your sales team would always leverage a lot of information from your marketing team. Your service team would always leverage a lot of information from your sales team. Now, when you leverage from one function to another, you want your business objects which are helping you to fulfill those functions. You want those objects to be linked to each other. The way you do that is SFDC relationships. It's like, say, a supply chain department has completed the production of a particular thing. Only then would a sales team be able to sell it in the market. Vice versa. A sales team wants to sell something in the market. Or rather, there's a demand for a particular product. So the sales team has to sell that product. As a result, the sales team will have to ask the supply chain team to prepare that product. So you have to have the entire chain fixed up. You do that through SFDC relationships. There are different kinds of, four other kinds of relationships which are listed on the lower left hand side, and a diagram on the right hand side which is actually something which is huge, which holds a huge amount of importance within Salesforce. We will discuss each one of these in a lot more detail during our sessions. Finally, the most important thing, Salesforce.com security. Why is it most important? Let me not even talk of the slides right now, or this particular slide right now. This is a lot more detailed. And I think one of you asked this question. Why is it that Salesforce is really selling in the market? And I gave you one aspect of the answer, which is easy to use. No worries about who manages what. You just worry about your license costs and what you are paying for, right? One concern which has always been there in the market about CRM systems, and which is the prime differentiator between on-premise and on-demand systems, is generally, where does my data lie? Who controls my data? I don't want my data to be available to my competitor at a later date just because I didn't own the system. Because quite a few companies think that since Salesforce manages the entire system, they are custodians of the data. Salesforce never says they are custodians of the data. Salesforce says, even if you want to end your license partnership with us, we will take a dump of the system after the after the license is over, after the partnership is over, we will take the dump and give it back to you. We will not keep any records of your information. That's something which is very important when we talk of a system which is not maintained by you. So when we generally talk of Salesforce.com security, there are a lot of aspects within it. One is in terms of generally anyone getting into Salesforce, a user logging into Salesforce, how is it that I am able to distinguish one user from another? How do I make sure that a person of company X doesn't get to see the data held by another person of company Y, which is what organizational security, organization level security is all about. Next, even within companies, a sales team would never want a service team to know about everything. How is it that I stop my sales team, or rather, how is it that I stop my service team from not accessing the sales team data till a certain point? That's what is done by object and field level security. And finally, I may not want, say, data of Indian clients to be accessible to people who are servicing, say, North American clients. That is something record level security. So what I'm basically trying to say is, I want clusters of data to be formed in such a way that only the set of people whom I want that access to be available to get that access. I generally do it through like a record level security. There's a lot of information in terms of, or rather there's a lot of detail around all of these, and if I have to just talk about Salesforce.com security, that in itself is almost a 5 to 6 hour thing. It's never complete. Trust me, even today as a consultant, I keep learning about Salesforce. So that's all in terms of Salesforce.com security. Yes, I know I'm not giving a lot of details here, practically because of time constraints. This is something which sums up Salesforce.com security. I don't want to get into this right now. Just to understand, there are ways of enhancing security. There are ways of expanding the security to allow more users to see that same set of data. And also there are ways of coming back to your data, rather coming back and making sure that you don't want a lot of people to see your data. That's a brief gist about Salesforce.com security. Next, as you have already seen, I have the question slide, but before the questions, let me talk about myself for a couple of minutes, and I just reserved it for the end for a couple of reasons. But meanwhile, you can keep quickly typing your questions in the questions frame that you have. That is, when I started with Salesforce.com almost 5 years back, I didn't have a lot of IT experience. When I slowly started learning about Salesforce, I realized a couple of things. First, it's a very easy software to use. Second, it's something where you can learn by being very intuitive. And as a result, when you generally become a Salesforce.com consultant, since it's a trade which is gradually gathering pace in the market, one is there is lots of opportunities regarding Salesforce. Two, when there are lots of opportunities, there are lots of versions, or rather there are lots of things that you will have to learn. You will have to constantly learn and unlearn. So these are the kind of things that you will generally have to think about when you want to become a Salesforce.com consultant. I love the fact now I have an engineering background followed by having done my MBA from IIM Lucknow. Now, my quest for knowledge is actually that propels me to learn every day about Salesforce. And even today, if you ask me, I would say I learn only 50 to 60% about Salesforce, maybe a little more, but I wouldn't say I know 90%, 100% about Salesforce. Never. It's something which I'm gradually learning every day. I love this thing about Salesforce, and that's the reason why I have taken this course up in a very enthusiastic fashion, and I want to propagate this knowledge. Yes, I have given trainings to a lot of clients, but when we are interacting as a group, I don't think it's a client versus organization relationship. It's like colleagues talking to each other about Salesforce, helping each other learn. That's basically what Salesforce is. Now let me start getting into the questions quickly. We don't have a lot of time, but let me still try and get through some of the or most of the questions. Okay, I see a lot of questions coming. Okay. Okay, first question from Udit Jain. Oh, Udit has actually left the training. Okay, from Emmanuel also. Okay, Lakshmi, I think I've answered your question as to why Salesforce.com is popular in the market. Primarily because one, it doesn't involve a lot of investment in terms of having server systems and so on. Second is it's an intuitive software. It's easier to learn. It's easier to maintain. And third thing, since it's available on the cloud, you can connect anywhere and everywhere, which has always been a problem with systems like Siebel, where you need always a desktop and login facility to join in. Next question from Suresh: how speed will be while connecting multiple people at the same time? Very simple. There are organizations where 200 plus users log into Salesforce at the same time with different logins. Salesforce has never had a problem. If you have a good internet connection, something like maybe say and I'm not talking about people like us who are connecting from home. When you're talking about enterprise-wide connections, something like 12 Mbps, 20 Mbps kind of lines, it's never a worry. And even when we connect through homes, so I even have used a normal Tata Photon to connect, and it works perfectly. I have worked for almost the last 5 years from my personal laptop on client applications. I don't have to worry about, because all the security is built into the application in Salesforce. So I will just have to make sure I give the correct set of authentications and I can work. Okay, next question from Amandeep, and I think Amandeep has also left the session. His question was how to create reports in Salesforce. I will answer this through a very straightforward. It's like a drag and drop facility in Salesforce. Salesforce says if you have the information maintained, you will be able to create that particular report and dashboard. That's what Salesforce, that's how easy with reports with Salesforce is. Okay, Hiren also had one question around the percentages on the Salesforce slide. So basically what those percentages meant were, earlier with systems like Siebel, there used to be a lot of back-end coding. So the development time would always be like 2 to 1.5, 2 years time for any normal application. Now today with Salesforce.com, the development time has actually come down to 3.5, 4 months for same or similar kind of applications. How? You don't do coding, you don't do a lot of coding. You can actually manage it through clicks. So if you see that particular slide, and Edureka will share that with you, it says the percentages of coding versus percentages of clicks. Clicks means you can directly configure it in Salesforce. I am a functional configuration expert as well on Salesforce.com, and right now one of my priorities is to make sure that I don't allow clients to give me requirements which require coding. Coding always makes your system heavy. Coding always makes your system difficult to maintain. It always makes your system difficult to be scalable. You can do it through a little bit of tweaking in the system using simple configuration through clicks. That's what that percentages meant. Okay, Abhishek has a question which says how many modules Salesforce has. Typically, Salesforce doesn't talk of any modules, but what I have done is the course which will start on 5th of September. That particular has, I think the total number of modules is somewhere around, I think it's 8 sessions. So 8 to 10 modules are there. Of course, I've clubbed a few sessions, rather a few modules into one session, but around 8 to 10 modules. Are these business objects modules? Yes, business objects are the modules. That's another question from Abhishek. Okay, Amandeep had a question in terms of how to prepare reports monthly or weekly. These are actually a lot of detailed questions. So Amandeep, the simple answer to that is you can actually create daily reports, monthly reports, weekly reports. You can even do system refreshes or report refresh on a monthly, weekly, daily basis, or a yearly basis, quarterly basis. So all of that can be handled very easily. That's something which is like a drag and drop kind of a facility. It's an easy thing within Salesforce. Join me in the course for Salesforce in the reports module. We will talk about all of this. Rishabh asks the question that how can we get the recording of this webinar? Contact Edureka. They'll help you with the recording. Pia Pandit has a question, and that's a very good question actually. If a company wants to work with Salesforce, then is it compulsory to have sales, marketing, and services, or is it to get only, I believe, one of them? So, Pia, what happens is a company, so you have different types of licenses. So it's like if you want to implement marketing related functions, you buy the licenses for Marketing Cloud. If you want the Sales Cloud related functionalities, you buy the licenses for Sales Cloud. Earlier there used to be single type of licenses. So you can actually buy it separately and make sure your definite set of people can do definite set of activities. You don't have to pay for everything here. Ravi has a very pertinent question, and this is a question I had 5 years back. As an MBA student, what type of jobs I will get? Is this a professional course? Can you explain job opportunities I will get? Ravi, the answer to it is, as an MBA student, there are two types of roles that you can get with a Salesforce.com course, post a Salesforce.com course. One is you can become a Salesforce.com business analyst. You can even become a Salesforce.com functional consultant. But for that, you will have to really learn Salesforce.com as a hands-on. And that is an opportunity which you have to really find out, because you don't really become a functional consultant just like that. Will this course be a professional course? If you mean by a professional course, does it provide a certification? The answer to it is yes. Edureka, at the end of the entire course, there's a certification case study. There's a certificate which will be issued from Edureka. But I don't think it will be an Edureka, it will be a Salesforce.com certificate. But from what I believe, Edureka certificates also hold a lot of importance, or hold a lot of weight in the market. So this is something definitely that you can look forward to to jumpstart your career in Salesforce. Suresh M has a question. What are prerequisites to learn Salesforce? I think as such, nothing really, but just that it's good to know a bit about how businesses work. How is it that the sales functionalities of businesses work? And basically try and just Google around in terms of sales processes, marketing processes, service processes. Use Google. If you have Google, you will know about the basic prerequisites. And of course, and if you talk of system related prerequisites, all you need is a laptop or a desktop. You need a good internet connection, and you need to enroll in the course for Salesforce. You need to enroll in the course for Salesforce with Edureka. I'll be there with you to take you through the Salesforce. Ravi Kumar has another question. What type of firms need Salesforce? Everything. So Ravi, right now I am actually managing a project for one of Fortune 100 life science generic drugs company from US. There are research-based life sciences companies which use Salesforce. There are insurance companies which use Salesforce. There are, I would say, retail, manufacturing, everything that uses Salesforce. Reason being, everyone needs customers. Everyone wants to get close to customers. Suresh has another question. I do not have experience on coding. Can I learn Salesforce? Suresh, I am in the same boat as you. I do not have any experience on coding. After my engineering, I worked as a core manufacturing designer. I learned Salesforce as a functional consultant, as a business analyst, followed by as a business analyst. I have never done coding on Salesforce, though I can understand what the coding in Salesforce means by virtue of my experience, but I have never got a hands-on experience. Yes, you can learn Salesforce. Sanket has a question. As a PKI implementer, I would like to know more about security. In BFS security, what are the main concerns? Do you have second factor authentication in Salesforce? Is Salesforce providing individual level security? Answers to all of it is yes. Salesforce provides the second level authentication related security. In BFS, security is the main concern. Yes, it is. And there is actually a site. If you log into Salesforce.com, there is actually a link on, I think, somewhere in their web page, which is trust.salesforce.com. You will see huge lot of BFS companies like Citibank, some of the big investment banks across the world who have employed Salesforce. They are big clients for Salesforce. Salesforce ensures that the security for them is paramount. Raghavendra has a nice question. How long Salesforce will there be in the market? So Raghav, I think Salesforce has been there for the last 15 years at least. By my guesstimates, Salesforce will be there at least for the next 20 to 30 years. And that will be till CRM changes to a different system altogether. CRM is something, look, customers will always exist. Customer relationship management will always exist. Salesforce for the time being, at least for the next 20-25 years, will exist. Sagar has a nice question. What is OWD in Salesforce? It means organization wide default. It is a security feature. Sagar, join me in the course for salesforce.com and you will learn about OWD as part of the course in terms of the security features. Mahendra has a question. Relationship between accounts and contacts. Simple way of looking at it, Mahendra. Accounts are your customers. Contacts are your people within those organizations. So it's like ICICI Bank has, okay, let me take another example. Let's say a company like Capgemini or Accenture provides services to say British Telecom. So British Telecom is an account. Employees within British Telecom who would access that system are the contacts. I hope that's clear. Raghavendra has a question for Salesforce consultant. How will it be different from Salesforce.com, from Salesforce developer role? And can we be Salesforce consultant without development experience? That's what Raghav. I think I answered to Sanket. You can be a Salesforce consultant without having a developer knowledge, development knowledge, and as well as a Salesforce developer knowledge. But then the starting point for both as a developer plus as well as a Salesforce consultant is the basic Salesforce.com knowledge. It's always the same for both of them. Only after a certain point, one the developer goes into the coding bit, the consultant goes into the system configuration bit. Sanket has another question. Is the connection to server which I am using on cloud is encrypted? Yes, it is encrypted. I think it uses a normal 128-bit SSL encryption bit or something. I am not a network security expert, but yes, it is encrypted. That's something which you can also check on trust.salesforce.com. Hiren has a question. What about migration from desktop to cloud computing? Can you please throw some light on that? So a lot of companies now are actually migrating from Siebel based systems to cloud computing. It's a difficult job because one, users have got accustomed to the way Siebel works. Second is you need to do a lot of data migration, but increasingly companies are looking at cloud based computing. Simple reason, when your sales representatives are meeting customers, you don't want to lose that information. With Siebel systems, those sales reps had to come back to their offices and then enter that information. At times, a lot of that information got lost. With cloud computing, that's not a worry. You can use handheld tablets, tablets, or say what we used to call PDAs, and you can actually enter all that information just after you have done that meeting. Abhishek Day has another question. Do we need to know Java to learn Apex, or can we start fresh? You can actually learn Apex without knowing Java, but from my interaction with Salesforce developers, it's always good if you have the background from Java. But you can start fresh. I know a lot of people who have started fresh and who are masters in their art nowadays. Raghav has another question. This type of WebEx will be there weekly or when? So once the course starts, Raghav, on 5th of September, it will happen every week on Saturdays and Sundays, 2 hours per session. So all in all, 8 classes over 4 weeks, 2 hours each. So 16 hours of Salesforce. Santosh Bhojan has a question. For customization, do we need any C hash knowledge? No, you don't need to. Customization is something that you do on the system. It's a drag, drop, click. So it's like you need to know the workflow of Salesforce.com. You can do it without any coding knowledge. Pragya had a question. Do we require any coding knowledge for this course? No, you don't need to know any coding knowledge. I am myself not a coder, and I will not talk of any coding related details. Salesforce.com has a separate set of requirements for coding related Salesforce developer, which I will not get into. Is there a way we get online access from Salesforce? From Vijender. Vijender, yes, you can create developer accounts on Salesforce. This is one of the topics that I'll cover as part of the first session, or rather in the first week. The second module is something that I'll talk of. You will be able to create your own Salesforce developer orgs where you can do all of your sessions. Emmanuel had a question beforehand and I had jumped that. Will there be any practical session on Salesforce? Yes, Emmanuel, there will be. So within the 2 hours every day, from the second session onwards, we will have practical sessions on Salesforce. Plus, there will be case studies at the end of each session, which you will either have to do it where you will have to submit through some maybe a word-based document or a presentation, and even at times you will have to configure systems and show me screenshots of the system. So there will be practical sessions. Salesforce training is just not possible without practical sessions. Vijender has a question. Like they provide some demo instance on their cloud. Yes, Vijender, they provide demo instances on their cloud. It is known as developer edition. And this is something that I'll cover in module 2 onwards. Another question from Vijender, like Oracle, does Salesforce allow you to install anything? Yes, Vijender, again, it allows you to install Salesforce.com. It's not like installation. You create an account within Salesforce. You don't have to install anything in your machine. It's like creating an account with Flipkart. It's as simple as that. Venkatesh has a question. Is Salesforce certification going to help to get a job? Second part, I couldn't get it. Okay. Salesforce certification definitely helps you to get a job. It's really in demand across the world right now. Salesforce is in high demand. Across the world, every country, everywhere, Salesforce is really in demand. Emmanuel has a question. I am an MBA student in marketing. I want to go to sales. I want to go in sales. For me, softwares can be best learned through practical sessions. Yes, Emmanuel, and that's the reason we have a few practical sessions in Salesforce during the classes that we'll have. Emmanuel has another question. Does Salesforce provide services for Android or OS apps? Yes, it does. There's a Salesforce app for Android users. Okay, this is a good question from Pia Pandit. What is the difference in Salesforce admin, developer, or consultant role? Is there any predefined responsibilities for each of them? First, a Salesforce admin is typically like someone who will configure the system in Salesforce. An admin holds the responsibility for making sure the entire system works in a coherent fashion. A Salesforce developer is mainly responsible for doing some coding on Salesforce, something that cannot be built, or rather something that cannot be achieved by direct configuration. So an admin always has to provide a direction to the developer to make sure that the developer develops the correct code or does the correct bit of coding. A Salesforce consultant is generally a Salesforce admin. Raghavendra has a question. What is the course fee? Raghavendra, I think what you can do is you can actually contact someone in Edureka for this. I can give you the answer, but I think it's best served if you can talk with the Edureka team. Rishabh Jain has a question. I am working on Salesforce CRM on a CRM product now, which is Update CRM. Is it a good option to learn Salesforce? Rishabh, I think what you can do is just go around and before you commit yourself to Salesforce, just ask around your colleagues, ask around people you know from the industry, how Salesforce is typically placed and the kind of opportunities it gives. I think it will give you a good indicator about whether you should step into Salesforce. From my end, I think it will be, if you ask me as an individual, as a practitioner of Salesforce, I will say it's a good move. Oh, okay. I think Hiren, I think at one point somewhere he has spoken about Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and Marketing Cloud, and he had asked about is there any difference between the fees? That's something which is generally negotiated between one company and Salesforce. So, say Citibank is buying Salesforce licenses based on the number of users or number of licenses that Citibank will buy. Salesforce will give different kinds, will suggest different kinds of fees. So basically the fees is standard, but then Salesforce gives different kinds of discounts to enterprise customers. So let's not talk about fees because that is something which organizations or companies do it with Salesforce. Finally, the last few questions. Are Localitis app seller your competitors? This question has been posted by Emmanuel. Emmanuel, I'm not really sure about these customers. Salesforce.com generally the kind of competitors, the kind of competitors that you will have generally are one is Microsoft CRM, second is Siebel CRM, Oracle On Demand. Then you have a lot of small cloud-based CRM systems like Zoho CRM, Sugar CRM, and so on. I have a few names listed as part of my first class, which will happen from 5th of September. But generally, you don't see a lot of very small players who are competing with Salesforce. Yes, they are for this, but maybe not for the same kind of customers. Vivek has a question. I am currently working on Bitrix as CRM software. How does Salesforce.com differ? So my answer to you, Vivek, is I am not a Bitrix consultant, but what I understand is CRM as such will always remain CRM. So you will always have marketing, sales, and service as a part of a CRM system. It will not differ a lot, but the way it is handled and the kind of surety and the ease with which you can handle is something which puts, or rather which pitches Salesforce in a better light compared to its competitors. That's how it is different. So the workflow, the way Salesforce has made it easy for customers through easy configurable systems and so on, that's what helps to differentiate. Hiren has a quite a technical question, and Hiren, I'll let me read the question out. Do we directly transfer data from MySQL to Salesforce using APIs? As far as my knowledge goes, Hiren, yes, you do. But I'm not the right technical guy to answer this. I'm not the best person to answer this. Reason being, I am not one of those integration experts on Salesforce who can talk about the integration bits in terms of how MySQL connects or how you can connect with Informatica. But what I have definitely checked with checked as a part of different implementations is you can do a lot of these integrations very quickly using APIs in Salesforce. Okay, Hiren has another question. Could we replace QuickBooks with Salesforce? I am not familiar with QuickBooks again, Hiren. Not sure what it means. If you can just provide me the a description of what QuickBook is. It's an accounting system in ISA. Okay, in USA. Okay, simple and straightforward. So I think somewhere during our session I had explained that Force.com has a stripped down version called Force.com. Salesforce has a version called Force.com. Now in Force.com it is like an open box. You can configure that entire accounting system in using Force.com. You will have to develop everything in Force.com, but you can do that. So you can replace your cookbooks with Salesforce. It helps you to have that mobile connectivity or that cloud connectivity. Lakshmi has one last question, and I'll just restrict the number of questions to this last question from Lakshmi now. What is the difference between configuration and administration? Two things, Lakshmi. Generally, an administrator or an administration means before even you give or you start handling Salesforce and you start doing things in your system, you will define a overall layout, an overall system solution. System administrator, an administration guy will generally develop the solution on pen and paper before the solution gets done on the system. A configuration guy will generally, he will do is whatever has been done by the administration guy, he will make sure that administration guy's details are configured in the system. Now, if I have to make things a little complex, at times the administrator or the administration guy himself does the configuration for a lot of companies. So you have an administrator who does configuration, but generally just a configurator will not do also administration. Yes, I think there was one question, I don't know from whom it has come in. Does CRM give after sales service as well? Yes, that's what the Service Cloud is all about. It is a big factor in Service Cloud. Insurance companies, pharma companies, these are big deal. Service Cloud is huge. We will talk about it in the sessions. I just want you guys at this moment, don't think about so much in detail. Yes, it's good to get into details, but this session is just about brief acclimatization with Salesforce and what it can do and what it can't do. With that, what I'll do is I'll stop this session for the time being. I think we have had a fair number of questions, a fair audience who has been quite enthusiastic about this, about the software and its various usages. Thank you for your time. This is Ranjay Chakravarti signing off